You're along the lines of where this is government taking care of us, right? And making sure that more people don't get sick. And I'm like, that's okay, but we are just this close. We are this close from putting ourselves into a position to where we have no control at all. Coronavirus. That was Cardi B. Coronavirus. You didn't hear that song, bro?
I have not, no.
What? You love the hippity hop. I thought you'd... Well, look for it later. It's amazing.
I've been sheltering. I've been isolating. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
All the more reason why you should see it. Anyway, so Kyle is a polar opposite for me. We're going to be talking about coronavirus and people's view on coronavirus. And his is completely different from mine. I didn't just want to have two people on talking about the same thing. Someone just sitting there patting me on the back saying like, yeah, Jay is my cheerleader. I wanted someone that could challenge me. And then someone that is a complete contrast for me as well. Kyle has 3 kids. He's married. And you were telling me that both you and your wife are being compensated through work, correct?
Yes, we are one of the lucky few that are being taken care of for work. Yeah, we can work from home.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I'm single. I'm lonely. I cry into my hands at night. And I'm waiting for CERB. That's... No one's taking care of me whatsoever. We'll have to see how this thing pans out. But, I mean, I'll take the money if I can get it, that's for sure. Now, what I want to get into right off the top, and this is kind of what sparked us having this podcast today. And it was the announcement by the City of Ottawa that everything now until June 30th is pretty much going to stay the same as it is right now. No large gatherings. Yeah. So that means, I guess, still practicing social distancing. We can't have groups larger than 5. Parks are closed, which is bananas to me. I still don't get that one. How do you stand in regards to the measures that were taken today?
We clearly have some different views, so I'll just go right into my opinion. Like, I agree. I think that the state hasn't changed. Nothing's changed. There's still cases coming. There's been no change. So we got to implement the next steps, whatever the next step is. And if the next step is extending, prohibiting gatherings, then do it. If the next step is to continue to social distance, then keep doing it. Shutting parks. If people are continuing to gather and do these things, like, there's lots of stuff I do with my kids. Just before I joined you here, I was out on the road with them. They were on their bikes. My 2-year-old son was learning how to use a push car. Like, I'm still doing these activities. I don't need, if the city believes it's a good idea to shut these communal places down to avoid social contact with others, to just do that. Go outside, do something on your street. Like, I have no qualms with that whatsoever.
So you obviously, you're trusting in your government. Incredibly trusting.
It is trusting in the government, but I mean, give an example, if you can, of a reason they've given us thus far in
you're making this real easy.
In the whole pandemic, okay, that we shouldn't trust the decisions that they're making thus far and who like to come.
Okay, how about this simple one? Like, to wear a mask, not to wear a mask. Lot of confusion. We don't need to wear a mask. Now we should be wearing a mask. This mask works. That mask doesn't work. I mean, different articles coming out each and every day. That's not necessarily government. So I'll give them a little bit of a break there. But at the end of the day, if we were to take a look at everything that was happening in government before we got to this situation to where we're dealing with the coronavirus, if you were to ask people, how much do you trust your government? I don't think it would be all that high, right? I mean, they say the 2 occupations that you can't trust, a lawyer and a politician. And now people are starting to cry for more government intervention, right? And in doing so, giving government more power. And then at the same time, understand that fine line in between the government taking care of you and the government taking away your civil liberties.
You mentioned a comment to me as well earlier that, you're an outdoorsy guy, right? You need air, you have beautiful pictures you post
but
all the time.
But I'm afraid to leave my house because I'm afraid, like, where am I going to get a ticket or where I won't, but continue.
Correct. So, it's hard because you mentioned you don't see anyone at these parks. You don't see any
When I'm
gatherings.
driving
You don't.
around, I don't see people out and about when I'm driving around. The streets are
Right.
bare. People are staying inside. They're self-isolating.
Right. So when I'm on the streets or when I'm going to, pick up the mail or when I'm coming home from groceries, I do see gatherings in our neighborhood. And it's unfortunate because, it's the some ruin it for all type mentality, which is terrible, but it's what it is. You see these postings on social media of people, oh, let's go to the beach and let's do all this stuff, making these challenges of
We can take these
like,
extremes, sure, but look, I understand exponential growth potential.
right.
It's this assumption that there's three people that are standing within 6 feet of one another that are having a conversation, and if there's one person that's infected, well, now all three of those people are infected and they're a danger to society. I would rather see groups of 3, 4, 5 all over the place outside enjoying themselves, getting vitamin D in a healthy environment, opposed to anybody going to the grocery store where people
Agreed.
are breathing on shit, where they have to wait in lines, to where they're touching produce that other people touched. Like, that's disgusting, right?
But you have the freedom to do both. You have the freedom to do both. No
No,
one's
I
taking.
don't have the freedom to do that anymore.
Why? I was just outside on my
Not the
on.
way I choose. But okay, and fair enough.
There's your
There,
point. Not the
there
way
are
you choose,
there are
and
a
I
lot
agree
of
with.
different options for people out there. Okay, but I'm saying, like, there's a path that I walk every day out here. And I remember there was a day a couple of weeks back before things really fucking hit the fan that I went downtown for a walk, and there were less people that I was walking by downtown than I walked by on my path by my home. Like, there's
Yeah.
no sweet science to this. People are scared. You don't want people going to parks because you're scared it's going to make it worse for everybody else. My point is the slippery slope. So when I say for people to understand their rights and do some research, why would that make anybody angry?
I personally was confused because there was one comment that at least got my attention and my engagement where you spoke with an ex-police officer.
Yes.
And you made a comment that was, if anyone should understand and support this post, please correct my wording if I mistook anything. I only read it one time. So,
Right.
if anyone should be in favor of this post, it should be you. And to be fair, it was the quite opposite. He had very similar views to myself. I think that I think thinking that this is impacting civil rights and liberties at this point, I think that's a touch.
No, that it can. You keep on missing it. Everyone keeps on jumping to the next level. That's not what I said. I said that people should know their own civil liberties. It's not to say that what's happening right now isn't a legitimate enough reason. I don't have to like it. I don't have to agree with it. I'm saying, how close are we to where people that cry for a lockdown, they don't understand that what they're doing is that they're basically asking for martial law. And once martial law goes into effect, they need to understand, and if they did the research, that everything is out of your control. You no longer decide whether or not you want to take 3 steps outside your front porch.
Mm-hmm.
You may not have the opportunity to go get groceries when you want. You may not be able to pass your kids back and forth if you're separated, if you have custody. Once that happens, martial law. And could martial law go on for just a month to clear this up? Sure. Am I going to go a little bit extreme? Fine, I'll go a little bit extreme. Joe Rogan explored this on one of his podcasts. Because once martial law is initiated, there's nothing to say that it has to go away. And then anything that is law that is implemented due to martial law can stay. That's how a lot of taxes come to fruition. So just before you cry for a lockdown, before you cry for martial law, whether you know what it is or whether you don't, is just to do the research. So I've done my research. So I'm very uncomfortable with a lockdown. I guarantee you most people that are comfortable with a lockdown or think it's a good idea really don't understand what they're talking about. That's my point.
So I'll be transparent. We're having a good conversation, and I like it. I've done little to no research on martial law. I know high level Cole's notes of the general rules. I don't know the in depth. I think that the potential. I'll make sure the word gets used. I think that your concerns of the potential are very extreme. Like,
Yes.
I think that that if we go into martial law, you're expecting some communist outcome, which is nowhere in the cards. Like, Canada is not that. Like,
okay.
I just
say
don't.
This then.
Yeah.
If there was a 1, and people are saying this, so there's a 1 in a million chance that your kid's going to die from coronavirus, will you do everything in your power to keep that kid safe or your child safe?
Of course I would.
Okay, so in regards to my freedoms and the way of life that we know, even if there's a small chance, if we just step that much closer to where the way of life that we're living right now never goes back to be the same, do I not have the same right to be concerned?
You do. Now, you having that right and those concerns and those views as a single, you live alone and
lonely guy. Okay, yeah, rub it in.
You're
lonely
right?
Guy.
You're you, right? If you're telling, so if you say you're infected, you're one of the unfortunate ones that ended up with this virus, and
right.
and the rules were not in effect, but you knew the risks of going out and the impacts that could occur. Would you still run your daily routine, daily life, because you had concerns of your civil liberties?
Now, listen, I have an older father. My mother passed away 3 years ago. I often think, would I visit her right now if this thing was out there? And I would want to. Maybe I just quarantine myself for 14 days and I go see her. Right? I don't have to be locked up for a month or 2 months or whatever. I mean, there's ways to prepare for something like that. A lot of people don't seem to think that way. It's definitely not worth going out there and taking the risk. I understand that, right? At the same time, like when people talk about me and what I'm doing, or if I go out to the grocery store, that's just as likely for me to pick up a virus and still be able to transmit it to someone that I love or somebody that like the like there's a video that circulates in regards to people. This lady, she's trying to protect herself from a virus. She's wearing gloves, and how many different times that she touches something to where she would have transmitted the virus or whatever it might be, or germs, right? It's near impossible. So the only way that we can do this, I mean, as long as there's homeless people on the street, as long as there are people that are going to work every day, would to be to implement a full lockdown. And like that, to me, it just can't be that way. Like, why not just quarantine all the old people that we're concerned about and then just get back to our daily lives, since the vast majority of people are not going to be affected by this virus?
Because they did that in a nursing home with one of them, and then 15 or 16 others of it all contracted it at one time. And it's like, it's.
But people are going to die from this. Like, I don't want to come across as an insensitive prick, but people are going to die from this. Like,
why not limit it?
There are 1,200 children. Since we're talking about kids, your kids and keeping them safe. 1,200 kids die every day under the age of 5 from malaria. Okay, malaria is cured with a $3 pill. And like, we're not shutting down these countries that are ravaged with malaria. HIV kills 1 million. And I don't want to go on this all day and make comparisons, because a life lost, no matter what it's due to, is tragic. But when we're taking the steps that are being taken right now for something that we've already been given the numbers, 3,000 on the low end to 15,000 on the high end. So it's saying that, you know what, we could be under 3,000. We could potentially be over 15,000. But those numbers compared to other numbers, that's just not, like, I don't understand why everything is stopping here. You know, and even with the numbers globally, I can't understand why this is shutting down the world. The world. It concerns me. People are so fearful right now, is that we're not even thinking about the economic impact. And many times when I mention that, people will say, well, you know, it's health or finances. Well, they're about to come together because there's going to be parents that can't feed their kids, right? That can't shelter their kids, that can't pay the electricity, that won't have the money to pay for their kids to get the proper care. You know, we just happen to have free health care.
But that's a different topic, right? Because those are steps being implemented by the same government that you're concerned about for deferrals of mortgage payments and I don't want to get into the topic of all the strings and whatever. I'm just saying the efforts that they've displayed. So, you know, deferring the mortgage payments, and no person is getting like an eviction lock, like all this stuff that they're putting in place. Like, it's either that or those kids go to the daycare. Like my youngest son, when he was first, I don't know, a year old, we had him in a daycare locally that was close to my workplace. And for the first, I don't know, it seemed like every time he would get over something, he would be sick with a new virus at this daycare. As soon as he was taken out of the daycare and into my mom's care, he didn't get sick anymore. So just the ease of transition in places like that, and then all the parents go to pick up the children, and then just the like the steps. It's just it's not like nothing's been like this before. No one in any one of our lifetimes has seen anything like this before. So everyone can criticize any steps being taken. You know, it's just this is just a tough one, Jay. It's a tough one, and
it is.
I'm glad there's folks like you that are around to have these healthy conversations about it.
Right. It's great. Go ahead, please.
In times like this, right? Like, and I mentioned this to you the other day. It's like I haven't left my home essentially since March 13th. Mm-hmm. My mom called me on Friday night around 10 p.m. and my dad had fallen. And for the first time in my life, I actually my brain was registering if it was okay to leave my home to go and help them. Mm-hmm. And it was a weird feeling. And I called my sister, spoke with her about it. You know, I'm like, what do you think? You know, and she's just like, well, you clearly have to go, right? And I'm like, I know that's the right decision. I just, for some reason, needed someone in the same spot as me to reassure me of that, you know?
Right. And I'm glad you shared that story, because but that just goes to show you like the level of fear. Yeah. And that's not a bad, I'm not saying that's.
And let me be clear too. The fear was not of me acquiring, right? The fear is of me somehow doing something that would.
True. But
and then me visiting my elderly.
It's fear nonetheless.
Yep.
Right. So number one, fear just makes you question, like, you know, like the rational thing is like, you just got to help your parents. Right. And at the same time, you're thinking, well, if I help my parents, am I really helping my parents because I could do something else to them, right? Through coronavirus.
Yeah.
But the fear and the paranoia is so high right now, that scares me more than the virus. And let's go back a couple of weeks ago to where you couldn't find a roll of fucking toilet paper. Like it's laughable, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's absolutely laughable. But at the same time, when people are thinking so irrationally to where they're going out and getting fucking toilet paper instead of buying food, what is going on?
By the pallets. Yeah.
People aren't buying food. They're buying toilet paper. Like, I have the same, like, I've not gone out to get toilet paper once. Like, I don't know what people are doing, what they're eating, how much toilet paper they're using when they're wiping. But that's the conspiracy. Like,
I'll tell you one thing. I'll blow the whistle on this one. When you're not using your employer's toilet paper for 50% of the day, it starts to deplete. I will
fair
tell you
enough.
that as a fact. All
Fair
right.
enough.
The secret's out. Sorry, everyone.
Right.
Secret's
I'm
out.
telling people, like, if everything
Yeah.
goes to shit, there, people need to diversify. You got to go get your precious metals. You got to get some cryptocurrency and toilet paper. You got to make sure you got that toilet paper, baby. It's gonna be
Cardboard rolls. Yeah, that's
right?
it, man. Just roll it off.
But people are really scared. So number one, we're being told that this is something that can compromise people that have a bad immune system. Well, what's awful for your immune system? Stress, confusion, fear, right? And we're constantly jamming it down each other's throats. I don't like news, but news, they print the stories. We're the shitheads sharing this stuff. And whether it be legitimate or not, and there's a lot of fake news going out there. And I'm not even going to talk about the news outlets just yet, which are owned by the same people. It's like 6 major corporations. So I don't trust my news from those sources. But what's even worse is there was a party, for instance, that happened in Brampton 6 years ago, right? It was a house party. And people are sharing this online like this party happened on Friday and saying these COVIDiots. That's the big term now because that's positive in construction
I can't stand
and constructive, right? That's how easy it is to share fake news, right? I saw the same thing with a bunch of cyclists in New York, and people are posting it like it happened right now. And then people posting pictures of gatherings online. Like, it's not constructive in any way, shape, or form. And again, it's perpetuating this fear. And when people are scared, they're irrational to where I can make a post just talking about people being aware of their rights, and automatically it just goes towards fear.
But you knew when you posted that it was that there was intent behind it. That's not a
No,
standard.
I thought people were going to give it a whole bunch of likes and say, like,
No.
yeah, you know what? We absolutely have to watch our Constitution. I can go with the government so far, and I can give them high fives and good job. I mean, I really don't feel either which way about it to how it's been handled to this point. To be really transparent with you, Trudeau, do I think he's done a decent job? Sure. Ford seems to be a pretty stand-up guy. I don't follow the politics.
Oh, he's shown some good light, that guy. That's a different talk. I'm not going to get in it, but
right. Sure.
He's in my books.
Listen, like I'm neutral that way. Yeah. Right. I'm saying again that sure, this is where we are right now, but this is where it looks like we might be heading. And that has been said by Trudeau himself. Reporters have been asking these questions, and he's kind of been pushing it to the side, right? Not to mention, he also went for like a big spending grab a couple of weeks back, right. And the MPs, and they're giving themselves a raise. The carbon tax is going ahead, like all these weird things. There's just a lot of people that are asking themselves a couple of questions, like they're scratching their head and saying, like, it doesn't make sense. And I'm like, well, if it doesn't make sense, then maybe it's time that you start exploring exactly what's happening here. And there's definitely the people like you that are pretty straight and narrow, and then there's the tinfoil people, and I'm somewhere right in the middle. I'll just say it. Like, I'm right in the middle. I'm very open to information. And unfortunately, there's a lot of serious tinfoil people that are sharing information that really kind of poops on the cause. Then there are people that are way too extreme. On the conservative side of things, were you actually making a text while I was having a podcast with you?
No, okay, I'm bringing your post up so I can actually take some quotes from it on the to be honest with you, yeah.
Right. And then there is just like, this large gray area. And I wish that both parties, in regards to the extremes on both sides, would just try to do a little bit better of empathizing for one another, so there can be a little bit more reason opposed to this shutting down of views on both sides.
So what does that look like to you then? What does that look like to you then, empathizing on both sides?
I definitely have strong views, but I empathize with the fact that there are people out there with more to lose than I do. There was a post in the Barrhaven forum site on Facebook, whatever, Barrhaven,
Sure.
this and that community place. And there was this one lady that was really upset with the kids that are playing at the park, et cetera, et cetera. And my post was like, listen, I am a single guy. I could tell that through her profile because I creeped it a little bit that she has kids, right? So I'm a single guy. I don't have kids. You're a mother that loves their children more than I could ever imagine, because I've heard this from guys and
Right.
girls alike. There's nothing like the love you'll have for a child, like
Right,
loving
right.
something more than you love yourself.
Right.
And I distinguish that clearly. And at the same time, yes, you're a parent, but the person that's letting their kids play on that play structure loves their kids a lot more than you can love their kids.
Right.
So if they're okay with it, you should be okay with it. Like, your kids aren't there, so why are you worried about it?
Because maybe my kids will be there in a little bit.
But
Maybe
they
my
shouldn't
kids
be.
will-
Just keep them locked inside, brother.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, why? Okay, so what's the topic? Is it the self-policing at the, like, what are you trying? What angle are we taking on this one? This is my question to you. Like,
That's good, and I'm glad that you asked, because it's very easy to get off track.
well,
With
yeah,
this
like,
thing, right?
and listen, and a lot of different ones of your topics are covering a lot of different views of it, right? So
I'm saying that I empathize, right? So sorry, I should have ended my comment properly. I kind of just I kind of shed it off the bottom. Is that, like, I empathize and I understand their frustration.
Yeah.
I can understand their frustration, right? So they have a view that everyone should be staying inside. They shouldn't be going to the park. That's their belief system. Now and they want it to be respected, right? Which is why they're shitting on someone on Facebook.
Right.
Now, this parent that has their kid at the park, maybe they're not worried about it. They're healthy people. They're out at the park. They think that it's good for their kids' mental health to be outside and not mess up their schedule so much. Now,
Yep.
Respect that belief system, right? Like, if it was like widely being disrespected, I guess maybe I would be a little bit more understanding about the person that's freaking out. But people are not, they're generally not going outside. Like, the streets are bare. If you're expecting 100% compliance on this, you're ridiculous. Because if you want that, then we need to be a communist fucking country. There are going to be people that fall outside the numbers, right? Or that fall outside of what it is that you want to see personified. But at the same time, like, these numbers are factored in to the overall estimates that you get. Like, I mean, the 3,000 to 15,000, they know that there's going to be a certain amount of people that don't comply, a law of averages, and they factor that into the numbers. There are going to be people that don't listen.
Yeah.
And we have to find a way to get through this with people that don't listen, as long as it's not on a large scale.
But they did find a way. They're finding them.
Sure. Now, okay, I can handle that, and we're at a level that it's still making some people uneasy, but things are happening that are making people realize that we're getting closer to stronger government, right? And that makes some people uncomfortable. So if people can just learn to respect each other's sides, and they don't have to agree with it, right? But when I say, like, look at this article, blah, 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 take 2 seconds, just read the article and educate yourself a little bit more. And for the parents that have a lot more to lose than me, I also understand why they're so concerned, which is why I will practice my social distancing, which is why I will do all the things that are necessary to make sure that other people are safe. I respect that. Now, at the same time, respect my views and quit trying to change me. I'm not saying that other people have to do anything differently. What I was really offering up for people, and anytime that I make a comment, is just to really try to understand what's going on from all sides. And I try to do that every time that I engage somebody, which is why I wanted to have you on this show.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't want to have you on and say, yeah, Jay, you're right. You're the best. You know, you'll challenge me. You have different views. And at the same time, I'm really trying to do my best here. Number one, not to get escalated, because then I just look like an Alex Jones guy. And I'll definitely see a whole bunch of gifs of me wearing the tinfoil hat. But we have to find a way to get through this together. And we need to find a way to be able to do that to where we don't have martial law, to where we don't give government too much power. I guess at the end of the day.
I can see where you're coming from, right? And from a fear, like, but you're saying, like, this goes to fear as well. Like, to me, it sounds like instead of being scared of the virus, you're scared of the impacts of the virus, right?
Fair.
So
on government, I'm scared of
the potential. What can they do to me now that everyone else, this virus has done this to everyone else? Like, it's a slippery slope, and it's not black and white, it's gray. And like, there's some things, and you brought up a point earlier where it's like the people with outstanding health issues are high risk too, right? Like, my wife just got over pneumonia not too long ago, and she's the one leaving the home going back. Like, it's just, so there's many different factors that are going to contribute to my concerns. And it's like, I think no matter how this gets handled or what gets implemented, there's going to be fears on both sides, no matter what, like virus or impacts, whatever.
Like, so we've done a lot of doom and gloom, and I'd like to finish strong. And I see some things talking about the positives that have come. Like, you were telling me a couple of things in regards to your interactions with the family, etc.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, because I really want to end this with something positive and a big smile.
Sure. Like, every week it was, my wife works weekends, so, or Tuesday to Saturday, and I'm Monday to Friday. So the only day we're really together as a family for the entirety of it is Sundays. Tradition on her end is to Italian Sunday dinners, right? So it's always with the family, whatever. Now Sundays we're all home. She can't go to her parents. She can't do this anymore, So at first, and I'm going to be honest and true, it was like we were forced to be together and have dinner. We're not used to it. I stay home. I would usually watch football on Sundays. It trickles into winter, and et cetera, et cetera. We usually play ball on Sundays. So they would just go out, right? And so now we're together. The kids are home with me now, and I work, 7 to 3, and the kids are with me the entire time. So, I'm spending more time with my children than I ever would have, when they're at school or when they're at, and it's, it's eye-opening, because I consider the time I spent with them pretty good prior to this. Now, when they go back to school eventually in 2021 or whatever the plan is, like, it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. And I've really enjoyed the time, and I've got to enjoy my son grow up, right? Like, he's 2 now. He turned 2 in December. He's going to be 3. And I've pretty much got to see his second year of life in its entirety and not missed any of the cool stuff he's all done recently. It's been, these are the good things, and they're as transparent as I can be. They forced me to be with them 24/7, and I haven't regretted a single second, aside from determining that when this is done, I don't want to be a stay-at-home dad.
Right. And what about the wifey? What about you and the wifey?
It's been great. She would work nights with weekends, so I would never see her. She would get home, she'd be tired, eat dinner, would want to go to bed, right? Like, I'm up for 6 something in the morning, go to work, get the kids, I'm with them all night till she gets home. So now we're spending time with her when she's at home. We put a show on in the background while we're doing whatever, or we'll, fall asleep on the couch and stuff, just things that weren't happening before. And it's just this forced time together has been one of the best times that I've had with my family as a whole in its entirety. And it's awesome. It's been really, really good. And I hope that if anyone else is, going through the same stuff, that they really enjoy this time and take a look. And yeah, there's some bad shit going on, but like, there's some really good stuff that's going to come out of this in the future, right? It's going to be weird as hell when it's all done. It's going to be weird. Nothing's going to be normal anymore. So, but whatever, man, we got to look at the positives, to your point. And I think these are some really good stuff that's been coming out of it, man.
Yeah. You know what? It's been tough on me, being solo. That's the whole thing. There's people coming from so many different walks of life. Everyone's different. This affects everyone differently. I'm also self-employed, right? As we touched on. So, my financial certainty is not as strong as yours. And for sure, sometimes, and I hate to say it, is that I let my brain space sometimes get toxic.
Yep.
And it's being able to control the things that you can and understand the things that you can't, right? That's an awful paraphrase.
Yep.
But it's so true, right? And so the fact that it seems like there's so much control that has been taken from me sometimes that it makes me incredibly uncomfortable, where other people don't necessarily feel any different. And what you said in regards to spending time with the family, and being able to pull some positive from something that can be generally negative,
Yeah.
is a gentleman who had made a post about losing his father to cancer. And it really made me change my view on cancer. My mother passed away from cancer 3 years ago, and people will say, fuck cancer, right? And I used to think about how difficult it would be if I ever got a phone call and someone just said, your mom died and she was hit by a bus or had a heart attack or whatever it might be, right? Something just like that.
Instant. Yeah.
Opposed to the fact that his father being diagnosed with cancer, and even though he suffered a little bit, the father, is that he was able to spend time with his dad and take care of his dad and do all the things that his father had done for him when he was a child, right?
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that I knew that my mother only had so much time, to where I got to make the most of that time. And where both me and my sister really showed up for my mother, to where I'm certain, without a shadow of a doubt, that she was so happy in those last 3 weeks, knowing that she raised kids that showed up for her the way that we did, right? And in tragic circumstances, in circumstances that I would never want to be in again, and I would love to not have to live through once if I could erase it, right? But how grateful I am for that time that I got to spend with her, and the good that came out of it. So many amazing things came out of that. I became more spiritual. I can love somebody now that, in a way, I wouldn't be able to love before. I can be there for someone that has lost a parent in a way that I wouldn't have been able to show up before. It's given me greater understanding, greater empathy, to where I think I could even sit here and have this conversation with you without losing my fucking mind. So
Yeah.
I'd like to say thank you, because we shoot the shit here and there. We've never really sat down and had a conversation at length
I
like
know.
this, right?
I know.
And I'm grateful for that, right? That I'm connecting with people in ways that I have never connected before, and who knows, moving forward, this can make us even better friends. So thank you so much for sitting down and having a conversation with me.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
And anyone that's watching, you be safe, you be well, you take care, be well, love simply because you can. Take care, buddy.